Hey guys, Cody here. I'm going to go ahead and get some questions. I will read them off first. So does DS have a K9 unit? What opportunities do DS agents have to get involved with cybersecurity? Hints and tips to deal with the MSG deck commander. And then how do you identify? I posted something a while back on Instagram that the question was like, can you identify the DS agents? Or something like that. And it was a Raven team. It was a little Air Force team. But how did I identify those? Well, I'll tell you how. There's a number of ways to break that down. But so, does DS have a K9 unit? No. At Main State headquarters, where the security guards that wear the uniforms are there, they may have one, but DS as a organization as a whole does not. I know we had some in Iraq. They were triple canopy guys. They actually, helped screen at our facilities, and then also helped out the Iraqis at some of their checkpoints. But in general, DS utilizes other people's assets. So if it's a sex state detail, may use military EOD. If it's if you're doing a protection detail in Houston, whatever, you try to scrape up some assets, get a bomb dog or something like that. If you're overseas, in a country that's capable, that you trust, you may get, them to utilize their dogs. Otherwise, you're doing it yourself. You're an advanced agent. You're just going to look for shit that's suspicious under friggin' chairs and everywhere else, in corners and things like that. So DS does not have a K9 unit that's for motorcades and details. I mean, it might have one at Main State or something like that. What opportunities are there for cybersecurity? So, not really any. The State Department has the Bureau of Information Resource Management, and they have cybersecurity guys and girls there. Now, you'll work closely with them at Post. When you get to Post, you'll have the what's called IMS, Information Management Specialist. They promote into IMO, Information Management Officers, or IPO, which is Information Program Officer. And they'll be at Post, and they'll be able to help you out with any cyber issues, because cybersecurity is security. And so should something pop up, they'll help you deal with it. If there's some type of breach in classified material, they'll help you deal with it. You'll work closely with them. At smaller posts, you might be assigned an ISSO role, an Information System Security Officer. I was the alternate Information System Security Officer in Vietnam. I don't know shit about technology and computers. Luckily, they had 3 of those dudes, and they were great. I kind of got a little briefing from them, but generally those opportunities are for specialists in that field. Now, I will add that it's not really cybersecurity, but there is a cyber component within DS for special agents. And I don't know the name of the office. I do know that they are specialists in computer forensics. I think they have an 1811, which means a dedicated DS special agent to maintain continuity and doesn't rotate to different posts. It's there. And then I believe there's opportunities, very few people at one time, maybe 2 or 3, can go to that office, learn about computer forensics. And those are generally there to help out the field offices or CFI, criminal fraud investigations, which is DS's meaty investigations component that handles a really big case. Like the case in my book, the $1 million fraud. CFI dealt with that, and I believe that computer forensic unit also helped out. So that's not cybersecurity, but that's a way you can get involved in DS with some type of cyber unit. All right, how to deal with deck commanders. I actually talked to a buddy the other day that was a former Marine, and also was a classmate of mine, and he was just talking about issues with his deck commander. And I was telling him to be hard, and and he's a good dude. He's just a nice guy, and we have different ways about us. I think there's a lot there when you're dealing with deck commanders. Oftentimes you're dealing with the deck commander. It's a staff sergeant. It's either staff sergeant, gunny, or above. And what happens at posts usually is the regional security officer will task the MSG detachment portfolio, the management of the Marine Guards, to an ARSO. And officially on paper with the MOU between the State Department and the Marine Corps, that deck commander reports to the RSO. So you're kind of the intermediary as an ARSO when you get out to post. And it's important for you younger agents and for any agents that are out there that maybe just aren't familiar with the Marine Corps or Marines mentality to understand that if you're the RSO and you're going to task that down to that young ARSO, you need to let that deck commander know that he has that you have full that the RSO has full confidence in the ARSO. And that you support the decisions that individual makes. If you don't, then don't freaking put them in that position, right? But you need to do that because oftentimes the deck commanders will feel like, well, you're just the ARSO, I really report to the regional security officer, and that kind of causes some conflict there. So what tips would I have? Number one, in dealing with the deck commander, number one, know your freaking job, know it well. Apply those critical thinking skills, know the ins and outs of the consulate or embassy that you're working in, and execute when it's time for you to execute. Get to know the Marines. Stop by post. Oh, they're going to respect that if you stop by post and shake their hands and talk to them and shoot the shit and let them be Marines. That's going to be great. Attend their parties if they still have parties. I don't even know anymore. But get to know them and build that rapport with your actual Marines, the detachment. That'll get up to the detachment commander. Spend some time with the detachment commander if you can. You guys get to know each other off time, whenever you're on your off time. Attend drills. You guys are going to do drills, and you're going to have monthly drills that you have to do. And oftentimes they just leave it to the deck commander. And sometimes the deck commander doesn't want the ARSO there, but that's not his or her call. You need to make that call. You need to be there at those drills. That's going to build rapport. That's going to help them build trust and confidence in you. And ultimately, when something goes down, they'll be able to rely on you. I'll tell you, as an MSG, when I first got there, I was like, I'm not listening to no fucking civilian. I'm not. I had a bunch of hard chargers with me, a bunch of fellow grunts and combat engineers, and you name it. And we thought we listened to the Marines, right? Well, then we got to build that rapport, and we learned that some of those RSOs were former Marines and former Marine security guards, and they knew their shit. So we got to build that. Granted, not every RSO or ARSO comes out there has that experience. Some get onto the agency at 23 years old, and you might not have any experience. And that's why you need to do these things like knowing your job, knowing the Marines, attending drills that are going to help you. What's another thing you can do? You got to learn to have a command presence. You can't just walk in and be timid. You can't be passive. I'm not saying be aggressive and know everything and chime in on everything. Go in there, listen, learn, chime in when you need to chime in, and say, have that command presence about you. It's extremely important when you're talking to Marines. Another thing I would add, someone to get on your side, is the regional command. So MSG Battalion is the battalion. It's the head it's called MCESG now, Marine Corps Embassy Security Group. But that's formerly Marine Security Guard Battalion. And those guys, there's a DS agent that sits there. There's maybe a couple of them that work with the MSG Battalion. But MSG Battalion is broken up into regions. And those regional commanders are going to come out and do what they call SAIs. SAI, I don't know what it means. Some type of inspection. It's been a long time. And they're going to come do these inspections and take those opportunities, even before then, to get to know them, jump on the phone with them, call them, just say, hey, I want to introduce myself. I'm here with the Marines, good group of dudes and girls or whatever. But don't just call them for problems. Like, call them to start building that rapport, networking. I've just mentioned this on a podcast with Julie Cabus, a Deputy Assistant Secretary, very high up in the department. And we're talking about the importance of building relationships and networking, right? So you have to build those relationships in advance of a freaking problem. And so if you do that with the regional command and they know that you have this relationship, the deck commander knows you have this relationship with the CO, with the captain or the CO of the regional command, then they're less likely to be an asshole. Now, that's not knocking deck commanders. There are probably some of you watching. Some of you I know follow me. Listen, if you're a good fucking dude or girl, you're a good fucking dude or girl, and that's all there is to it. It's a deck commander or not. But there's some shitbags amongst you. There's some shitbag Marine security guards and some shitbag Marines too. But and generally you want to go in. You always want to go in with a positive attitude. But I've had my share of of two deck commanders at two posts that were just thought they knew everything. They didn't want to listen, and I had to step up. I wasn't even in charge of that. Well, in Vietnam I was, but I had no issue with handling him. In Erbil, it was one of my colleagues who was responsible for the Marine Security Guard detachment, and he's a good dude, smart guy, just a little timid, and the guy walked all over him. And the deck commander, he was no one special. He had maybe did 8 years. I mean, that's great, but when it comes down to it, the deck commander's not in charge. So if I'm offending any of you deck commanders, I don't know, harden up. But you get it. You have your buddies, people that you know that are good and people that you know are bad. So, and so anyway, so I had to bring it to the RSO. Like, listen, this guy is not hey, shut it. This guy's not he's not responding. He's not listening to my fellow ARSO. I want to take control. I want to tell him something. RSO is like, no, don't do that. Well, then he came into my turf and he started asking, the security contractors, our ground defense team, if he could do some certain things, certain training with bypassing me. So then I got in it, and I went straight up to him like I was back in the freaking Marine Corps, and we had a conversation, a man-to-man conversation. He never did that again. And so it's easier said than done. I was a Marine. I kind of know the culture. I kind of know the mentality, and so it's easier for me to be that way. That's kind of my personality as well. Kind of, it is. But doesn't mean just because you're a 23-year-old, college graduate. Hey, shut it. Sorry about that. Anyway, it doesn't mean if you're a young individual that you can't get the respect from them. And again, I've mentioned this in other videos. If you're younger, come in and listen and learn, right? Be confident, but listen and learn. And that's going to get you where you need to be in DS and roll with it, roll with the punches. So anyway, that's my tips in dealing with a deck commander, and that's how you stop dogs from barking. All right, Raven team. So I thought this was a fun question. It's kind of a little quiz or a little thing I threw up on Instagram, and you can look back at some of the posts. Actually, it might have been a story, so I don't know if it's up on a post or not. But I asked something like, how do you identify the Raven team? So Raven teams are I think I'm getting the name right. Raven team. They're Air Force security. So when the Secretary of State lands, the Secretary of State's flown by the Air Force when it's on a bird, on a fixed wing, and they land by the Air Force, and there are some guys and girls that come down the stairs and they stand next to the stairs, and they're responsible for the plane, the security and integrity of the plane when the Secretary of State is out doing his shit, or her shit in the country with the DS agents. And so they're standing in suits, stand at the bottom of the plane like this, right? Like a reverse parade rest. There may be a name for that shit. I don't know. They kind of look like they fit in, like the DS agents. Well, they're probably told to blend in, but they don't. And so someone said, well, how do you know? Well, I know because I have the experience. But how would you know? There's a couple of reasons. Number one, those guys are super young. They look super young. They all had military haircuts up to here, and they're all standing at parade rest. So one of the things we tell DSA, or as a DSA agent, you're supposed to blend in. Is it always easy to blend in? No. But you want to blend in like your protectees. So if your protectee's wearing a suit, you're going to wear a suit. If your protectee's wearing, casual clothes, you're going to wear casual clothes. Again, we really blend in? Not really. But those guys, although they wore the suit, they weren't necessarily blending in, right? Because the way their hair was, the way they were standing, and they were just super young, standing in one location at a reverse parade rest. So the big thing is how you'll know, and you'll learn this, is pins. They don't have pins. No, they weren't wearing DS pins. So when you're on protection details, in DS and Secret Service and other agencies where they have a protective element, you all got pins, a lapel pin, and that identifies who you're with. And so without getting into the temporary pins that we give people on a floor, or at a location to identify each individual person, whether they're, someone who's carried a gun or an administrative person or a room cleaner or whatever. In general, people have pins. The agents, DS agents have pins, and all their pins will match. And so that's the easiest way, if you know what you're doing, to identify someone as a DS agent or not a DS agent. So anyway, yeah, that's about it. So if you got any questions, I am always open to answering them, especially when I have some time on my hands. info@codyperron.com. Just shoot me an email there. My website is codyperron.com. You can have my Instagram there. I have my podcast there. I have my YouTube videos there. I have the book there. If you want the book, if you want a signed copy or a personalized copy, I've had a few people ask for that. Some for gifts, some for their sons, some for, just, I don't know, because they want me to sign it. I'm always flattered. I'll do it. Then you can order from my website. Just drop me a note when you order, and I'll go ahead and say it's no extra charge or anything. And I think it'll cost you. It might cost you a little bit more because it's not Amazon Prime, but it's just due to shipping. So that's just the way it is. What else? Podcasts, Off the X podcasts. If you haven't started listening to those, let me tell you, they're a wealth of information, particularly those of you. I know some of you watch these and are just interested in learning. I know the podcast is the case. People just interested in what goes on, how we do our job. But most of you, I would say, are probably aspiring DS agents. So go to that podcast, man. That podcast is going to help you out. There's a ton of information. It'll really give you a comprehensive look of what the agency does and what DS does and how we do it, and what things are important. In particular, this last episode with Julie Cabus, she was fantastic in articulating her experiences and her career, and she is a very high level up in the department. And and just a great she just did a great job on the podcast. So that's episode 10. Check it out. What else? Becoming a DSS agent, Facebook group, man, continue to grow in popularity. If you're interested, if you don't have a Facebook account, make a Facebook account. Fill out the questions. All right, I'm not going to take the time to go investigate who you are. I just don't have that time. So fill out the questions. I do investigate if you look shady. If you say your name is this and I think this just doesn't match up, then I'll find out and I'll probably deny you. But in general, we want like-minded people that are interested in the job, and I just need to know who you are before you come in. And that's really all there is to it. So becoming a DSS agent, it's on Facebook. Check it out. And there's a ton of active agents, former agents, high-level agents, young agents. Man, let me tell you, it's really growing, and a lot of these agents are active and they just want to help out, and they're getting involved. Several of them I've served with, one in Baghdad, one in Erbil. I say one and one, but there's probably at least 20 or 30 in there. So go to that group and they're going to answer questions. And if someone's bullshitting you, or if someone, whether a DS agent or not, most of the DS agents aren't going to bullshit you. But if someone else puts some information out there that may not be accurate, I'll mention it. I'll say don't put shit that's not accurate. That's the whole point, is to get away from the fray and to not be like these online police forums that are a bunch of people putting stuff that they don't really know the freaking answers to. This is real answers. And if it's a BS answer, I'll call it. I'll call it out. So there you go. Lastly, I'm starting to sell a little bit of apparel. I will not become an apparel company, I don't think. Not that popular. But got these hoodies. If you're not on my Instagram or Facebook, you wouldn't know, but these hoodies are high threat protection, getting you off the X hoodies. The front is Off the X Inc. So they're on my website, codyperron.com/shop. Listen, if you weren't, when we talk about high threat protection, people think, we generally correlate that with being overseas in these high threat, high profile environments doing protection, but there's plenty of places that you have been a protector. If you're law enforcement, or if you're someone in the security field and you're doing protection for individuals, any of these freaking protests and rallies that get hot. That guy was, I think his name's Shooter Rugi, right, where he took a protester's, we call him a weapon snatcher, took his gun away. That's high threat protection right there, man. So a lot of people are super humble and say, "Oh, I can't wear that." Well, it's up to you. I don't. It makes me no difference. If you want to be a protector and you are a protector, and then freaking have at it. All right. So again, info@codyperron.com. If you got any questions, I'm always grateful and thankful for your guys' support. I hope the information I'm putting out is good information. It sounds like it is. I love the feedback. I do get feedback. It's encouragement to keep doing these, so I'll keep doing them. And that's it for now. Thanks, y'all. Out.